Welcome to Dark PA, where we provide tourist information on the wonderful Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Today we'll be learning a little bit about 6 different, mostly rural PA counties and their attractions. We will also be learning a lot about the 6 people sentenced to death from these counties. Well, when I started this script, I was planning on talking about 6 counties and 6 inmates, but these stories are so crazy that I only managed to write 4 of them before I hit my page limit on the script. Buckle up, baby. This is gonna be crazy.
Right, you're bloody well right.
Dead man walking number 4 is Michael Brandon Singley from Chambersburg in Franklin County, who murdered 2 people and attempted to murder 2 more, and that's just the first teaser. Dead man walking number 3 is Don Tedford from Cranberry Township in Butler County, who sexually assaulted and murdered a newlywed while on furlough. Dead man walking number 2 is Stephen Trieber from Erie City in Erie County, who burned his house down while it was occupied. Wait until you find out by whom. Dead man walking number 1 is Mark Spotz from Du Bois in Clearfield County, who killed 3 women and his brother over the New Year's holiday in 1995. So let's start our little tour of my lovely state with dead man walking number 4. Right after that, trigger warning people are so fond of today. Roll the intro. Franklin County is located in rural south-central PA. It has a population density of 187 people per square mile, or 3.17 acres per person. Its largest city is Chambersburg, where just over 14% of the county's population lives on just under 1% of its land. It is home to Mr. Ed's Elephant Museum and Candy Emporium, which I was at many years ago, because when you're driving through this part of PA and your autistic child who fixates on animals sees a sign for this place, you are stopping. It's actually a fun little place to stretch your legs on a long drive. Chambersburg is home to Michael Singley, who killed 2 people and tried to kill 2 more, among other crimes. Guess which one of these we'll be talking more about. On November 3rd, 1998, Michael went on a spending spree around Chambersburg. He didn't spend much money, but as he is unemployed, it is a lot of money for him. He buys a folding hunting knife with a locking blade, camouflage hunting gloves, duct tape, 3 rolls, and .44 caliber ammunition. Excited to use his new toys, Michael drives over to Travis's house. Neither Travis nor his wife Christine are home from work yet, so Michael bums around the neighborhood waiting for Christine to arrive. She always gets home first. I personally surmise Michael probably spends his time walking around the neighborhood thinking about how he will soon break bad. Since he pleaded guilty to most of the crimes and only argued one based on technicality of the premeditation requirement, we can't be sure about this or his motive for committing these crimes. Simply can't imagine what else a person would do while waiting for the woman who will soon become their first recorded victim in 21 years on this planet. Being lost in thought is also the only reason I can figure that Michael only noticed Christine's Jeep once it is already parked in the driveway and she is in the duplex. If you know anything about true crime, then you know there is always something that just makes murders in rural areas either really crazy, like in episode 1 where a country fried con man convinced a young adult to murder as part of a hitman training. In this case, dude straight up plans to shoot 2 people who are separated from the neighbors by a wall. Let's see how this turns out. Michael parks about a block away from Travis and Christine's home and approaches on foot, carrying the recently purchased items. He stalks up to their front door, and he's not planning on providing his cousin with extra rounds for his .44 Magnum. Wait, did I forget to mention that Travis is Michael's cousin? Well, he is, and I have now. So, continuing on. Michael announces his presence at Christine's door, and she answers. Michael claims he is having car problems, most likely a bad battery, and he has to use the phone to call for assistance. Christine offers to assist herself after changing out of her work clothes. She allows Michael, her husband's cousin, into the house to wait while she changes. Michael follows Christine at a distance into the bedroom where he binds her arms and mouth with duct tape. Then he leaves the room to retrieve something and returns to find the door locked. He busts the door in, wrestles Christine onto the bed. Michael binds Christine's arms to the bed frame, covering her eyes and mouth with duct tape but leaving her nose exposed. He binds Christine's legs as well. He soon unbound them. The bindings make sexual assault too difficult. After the assault, Michael moves to a different room and smokes a cigarette. Returning to the bedroom, Michael brutally stabs Christine repeatedly in the chest, neck, and body. She soon expires as a result of these injuries. Michael waits for Travis to get home. Around 8 p.m., Travis finds Michael on the second floor, his hands filled with a knife and a gun. Michael forces Travis into the bedroom where Christine's body is covered with bedclothes. Michael pistol whips Travis, then stabs Travis in the back several times. After that, Travis still finds the strength to struggle with Michael for the gun. Michael wins and shoots Travis in the arm and rib cage before heading out. Michael grabs Christine's keys and exits the house, where he finds the neighbors on the shared porch. Remember, it's a fucking duplex? Michael deals a death blow to neighbor James' chest. Deborah, the other neighbor, hits the ground when this happens. Michael turns the gun on Deborah. Michael misses even though the gun was close enough to leave powder burns on her hand and wrist. Deborah just lays there. Michael then uses Christine's Jeep to leave the scene and drive through the country surrounding Chambersburg. A drive I recommend under conditions I do not. Eventually, he returns to town and uses a payphone to call his girlfriend because it's 1998. Then Michael attempts to sneak into his parents' home where he was living, which is where police took him into custody the next day. Michael pleaded guilty to the theft, sexual assault, murder 1 for Christine, and murder 2 for James charges. He pleaded not guilty to murder 1 for James, arguing heat of the moment over premeditation. In PA, if you commit a felony while armed and someone dies as a result of this, the fact that you armed yourself shows intent to murder if necessary, and therefore it is automatically murder 1. And that's how Michael Singley ended up with 2 death sentences in 2001. Now let's check out Butler County and Dead Man Walking number 3, Don Mitchell Tedford. Butler County, part of the greater Pittsburgh area, is located in western Pennsylvania. It has a population density of 240 people per square mile, or 2.67 acres per person, housing just over 18% of the county's population on about 2.7% of its land. Cranberry Township is the population center of Butler County. Fun for All is located in Cranberry Township. Its year-round XD dark ride and video arcade accompany the seasonal mini golf go-karts, batting cages, and 6 rides for the little ones. It's also where Don Tedford significantly reduced Janine Rivak's life expectancy. Yes, which one we're going to be talking more about. Before we get started, I just wanted to ask you to like the video quick while you're watching it. It'll help more people see it. Janine Rivak is a 22-year-old recent college grad 8 months into her marriage to James in 1986. She's hoping to find full-time employment in interior decorating. Her Art Institute of Pittsburgh degree is in interior design. Currently, she holds 2 part-time jobs, floral designer at By Janice Flower Shop and interior designer for Decoratives. It is her job search that brings her to the finishing touch in the Cranberry Shopping Plaza, which is where Janine meets Donald or Don Tedford. Janine does not know this, but Don is currently on work release for burglary and theft. Robert Sazzo, the store's owner, probably knows it though, and he put Don in charge of the Cranberry Plaza store anyway. Robert normally works at the other location on Babcock Boulevard. Sometime around the October-November boundary line, Janine comes into Don's finishing touch location. She meets an affable man named Don. Janine expresses her desire for full-time employment and presents Don with her portfolio. Don finds Janine impressive enough to interview her and review her profile on the spot. Don explains that he doesn't have any jobs available right now, but that he might in the future, and asks Janine to keep in touch. Ask any college grad. Getting that kind of feedback after an interview will put you on cloud 9. And Janine is.
Badass.
On Friday, February 10th, Don has a furlough, allowing him to remain in the community until Monday night. This same week, Janine is not feeling well. She has missed work from both her jobs the entire week. She still is not 100% on the 10th when she tells her husband, James, that she plans on spending the day at home as he leaves for work around 7:30 a.m. He doesn't think much about it when she doesn't answer the phone during the day. She's probably just sleeping off her illness. Janine's co-worker, Grace, gets concerned about Janine. She doesn't expect her to come to work today, but it is highly unusual for Janine to miss work and not call. Around 10 a.m., Grace begins trying to call Janine. There's no answer. The other 4 or 5 calls Grace places to Janine throughout the day also go unanswered. This is highly unusual, but in 1985, communication technology is not what it will be in 2024. And not reaching someone for a day is not something to lose sleep over. Usually, around 5:30 p.m., not only is it dark because it's PA in January, but the house is empty. Janine's nightgown is on the bed, some of her clothes are strewn about the room. James finds this even more unusual than Janine's non-existent note saying where she'd gone. Supply and demand dictate that answers are a lot more valuable to James right now than questions. Let's catch up with Don. The morning of January 10th, Lynn, a co-worker from the other store, returns Don's cat to him at the Cranberry Shopping Center location of Finishing Touch. The cat can't be left in the store overnight because of the security system. Lynn notices he looks tired and reeks of alcohol. Around noon, a delivery driver brings a package. The door is locked, but as he's setting the package down, Don opens the door and tells the driver the door is locked because he and Janine are headed out on a service call. She did not answer a call at 10 a.m., and this is noon. About 4:30, Don calls Lynn at the Babcock Boulevard store and asks for permission to close early. He claims it's slow. About 5:30 p.m., Linda, another friend of Don's, stops by the store to pay Don a social visit and notices that it's unusually dark. Linda knocks on the door and gets no answer. Linda starts to leave and a call comes in, and lights on the phone indicate that someone answered the call and is talking. Don's friend Elizabeth calls. He answers with hello. Elizabeth asks if they're getting together. Don said he's really busy and can she call back later. Linda knocks again. Don appears inside the store and motions that he can't open the door.
It's a curious place.
So Elizabeth, the caller in the last paragraph, calls back around 6 p.m. Don tells he'll call her later. Shortly after this, Elizabeth drives past the store while running errands and also notices the store is dark. Linda, the visitor from 2 paragraphs ago, calls Don at the Finishing Touch around 7 p.m. He explains that he can't open the door because the owner has the key. Hey, even a lie is an explanation. Don visits Elizabeth's home from around 9:30 to about 11 p.m., then leaves to meet a friend in Pittsburgh. Do you remember James, Janine's husband, or Janine for that matter, the victim? Well, around 11:30 p.m., James calls the store and talks to Don. Don says he remembers Janine. She was very talented, but he had not seen her that day. The next morning, James reports Janine missing. Around that same time, Don picks his coworker Alice up for work. Alice notices that Don's 280Z is much cleaner than normal inside and out. He tells her he just cleaned it. Between 9:30 and 10 a.m., James and Janine's father go to the Finishing Touch to talk to Don. Don again says he hasn't seen Janine but takes their number in case he does. Shortly after this, James finds Janine's car at the Pines Plaza shopping center without its owner. At 12:30 p.m., 2 small game hunters in Washington County, 2 counties away from Butler, find Janine's corpse. Remember how Don's on a furlough from prison until Monday night? Well, 9 p.m. Monday night happens and Don doesn't report in. So now he's an escapee. Remember Elizabeth from earlier? Well, Monday night, police brought her home after questioning and Don was sitting in a white Ford waiting for her. So Don went to jail and now he wouldn't be allowed to do work release anymore. But what actually happened to Janine? Well, check this out. On the morning of Friday the 10th, Don calls Janine and tells her he's doing some work and needs help, but he needs her right now. The two meet at the Pines Plaza shopping center where Janine's car was found, remember? After picking Janine up in his green 280Z, the two go to the finishing touch store in Cranberry Shopping Plaza so Don can pick something up. Once at the store, Don attempts to seduce Janine. She rebuffs the advances. Don does not stop. Janine becomes upset and frightened. Eventually, Don takes what he wants. Janine becomes more upset, even hysterical. He could not calm her down because no shit, Dick Tracy. At this point, Don strangles Janine to death, fearing she will report him and he'll lose his work release. He cleans his car, going over it with a fine-tooth comb. By the way, we know all this because Don told it to another inmate before the trial. That is how Don Michael Tedford ended up on death row. Now let's head north to Erie County and dead man walking number 2, Stephen E. Trieber. Erie County is weird. While it has a population of 266,000 or less than 1 acre per person, roughly 60% of its population lives on about 11% of its land, leaving the county largely rural. The largest population center is Erie City with 95,000 people. It's also the 5th largest city in the state, and the state's only port, kind of. While you're in town, get back to some global nature at the Erie Zoo. But we're here for the murder, and for that, we need to learn about Steve Trieber, who killed his toddler on March 9, 2001. Let's start at the beginning. Steve is in an abusive relationship with his live-in girlfriend Denise. The house is strictly run by his rules, like no shoes and bedroom doors locked. Remember that. Stephen also controls Denise's behavior, forbidding her to go to a local bar and threatening to burn it down if he catches her there again. He also has problems with his daughter's mother, Jody. Jody is Steve's ex-wife. Following the divorce and shortly after the couple's daughter Jessica was born, Jody moved about 130 miles away to Pittsburgh. As she is the primary guardian, Jessica is normally in Pittsburgh with Jody. Steve does have visitation rights and a shifty past. Between 1995 and 2001, 6 properties owned or occupied by Steve burned down. In 95, there was a suspicious fire at Steve's current 2001 residence where he did live at the time, and no arrests were made. In 1999, a suspicious fire destroyed Steve's parents' home. Again, no arrests were made. A local fire chief commented, "When someone has that many fires in that short period of time and he owns all the properties, I would think that investigators think that's very prudent to look at." None of those fires resulted in serious bodily injury or loss of life, thank God. Now that you're aware of the setting in history, let's start the story. Around January 26, 2001, Stephen calls Denise, remember the live-in girlfriend, and tells her someone has been lurking around the property. Denise looks outside and notices something affixed to the mailbox, which she retrieves. It's a letter made from cut and pasted newspaper letters, which reads, "Steve, get rid of the dogs or I kill them and burn you out again." Steve tells the police there was a ding-dong ditch.
Yeah?
We tricked him. He's probably like, there's nobody here.
The night before, and he noticed the note at that time but did not retrieve it. A couple weeks later, around February 9th, Steve starts buying some odd things. Straw on 4 occasions, 2 5-gallon gas cans. Steve also reduces the deductible on his car if it's destroyed by fire, but makes no other changes to the policy. Additionally, Steve attempts to increase his homeowner's insurance and purchase life insurance on Jessica, his baby, with him as the sole beneficiary. Moving forward to near February 16th, Denise, Steve's girlfriend, and Eric, Denise's 22-year-old son, practice fire drills. All 3 live in the same house. They practice several different escape routes from different starting points. Steve claims he wants them to be prepared no matter where the fire starts or where they are. This is not the end of Steve's obsession with fire safety or his odd behavior. On March 2nd, Steve buys a chain ladder and installs it on the house as a secondary fire escape. On March 5th, an ADT technician comes out to update the house's security system. During the visit, Steve tells the technician he knows how to disable the security system and that a fire might start in the house soon. On March 4th, Steve calls Jody, his ex-wife, if you forgot, and tells her he needs to take Jessica, their 2-year-old daughter, early for the visit scheduled for the 9th. Jody allows Steve to take Jessica early. The two live a couple hours drive from one another, if you remember. Jessica is not school-aged yet. Therefore, minor adjustments like this are more likely than not made often. I mean, if Steve is going to be in Pittsburgh, or Jessica's going to be up by a couple days early or late, why not trade then instead of making the trip twice? Steve shows up with Jamie and Eric, 2 men that work for Steve in lieu of paying him rent, the latter being Denise's son, if you forgot. The rent thing is not an uncommon practice. I've done it myself. As they exchange the child, Jody informs Steve that she is seeking an increase in child support. On the ride back to Erie, Steve tells the two of his plans to kill Jessica. He'll use candles, straw, rope, and gas to set fire to the house. He'd also told Eric of these plans about a month before this. Eric got a plea deal for his testimony at trial. Remember those strange purchases?
I didn't, I'm sorry.
Well, on March 9th, Steve decided it was time to fill those 2 gas cans. That night, Denise is woken to the house on fire. Steve escorts her and 2 of the dogs onto the deck outside the bedroom, but refuses to get Jessica because the smoke is too bad, even though Denise only sees light smoke. A neighbor sees the smoke and comes to assist, noting that Denise is screaming for help and Steve is standing calmly with his arms folded. Steve makes sure the neighbor accounts for the dogs not on the deck. The neighbor asks about Jessica and Steve replies, "The firemen will get her, she's probably dead anyway." When police arrive at the scene, they tell Steve they are looking for Jessica and he responds, "Well, it's probably too late anyway." Later, the fire investigators determine there are 2 points of origin, basement and garage. The means are rope, straw, candles, and gasoline. They'll use candles, straw, rope, and gas to set fire to the house. Little Jessica died of smoke inhalation before firefighters retrieved her. That's how Stephen Trieber earned his cell on death row. Now let's head over to Clearfield County for our last dead man walking. Clearfield County is nestled in the hills of central PA and mostly covered by state forest lands, giving it over 9 acres for each inhabitant on the average. Its largest city is Du Bois, with a population of 7,500, but Sandy Township has 10,000 residents. While you're here, you can check out the Tot resale store, or Walmart Supercenter, or Big Lots, all of which are on TripAdvisor's 18 Places to See in Clearfield County page. It is also where the 1995 tale of Mark Spotz starts. We will hit 3 other counties in a different state before we're done, though. Before we get started on our last story, since you've stuck around this long, have you thought about subscribing so I can tell you next time I do this? You'll have to ring the bell too, though. The Spotz family is known to authorities. They have a pretty lengthy criminal history. On January 31st, 1995, Mark Spotz and his brother Dustin get into a fight because teenagers pissed Mark off by teasing him with a gerbil. I know! I want more details too, but they're not available. I had to find that on freaking the OWN website. This happens in their mother and stepfather's kitchen. Eventually, the two come to blows and Dustin decides it's a good idea to stab Mark. Mark, not to be outdone, gets his 9mm and shoots Dustin at least 7 times. Twice. Fatally in the chest. The family reacts as outlaws will. With the 9mm tucked in his waistband, Mark gathers up his girlfriend Christina, then Mark's stepfather drives him to a friend's house. Someone drives them from this friend's home to Pine Grove, around 160 miles away in Schuylkill County. They arrive on Main Street, Pine Grove, around 3 a.m. on February 1st. The pair has 2 major problems to fix immediately. No money and no transportation. Around 5:30 a.m., June arrives at Harris Mini Mart to open the store. Using his gun, Mark gets June into the passenger seat. Christina climbs into the back seat. Mark hands the gun to Christina while he removes June's money and jewelry. Then Mark drives the car to a lonely bridge on a deserted back road, shoots June in the head, and kicks her body into the creek below the bridge. The pair then drives June's car to a local car wash. Surveillance video shows the pair arriving and cleaning the car together. The pair leaves June's purse, clothing, and personal items at the car wash. Reports don't say where they were found, but I hope at least it was the garbage. The pair then left the Pine Grove area. The pair drives to Delaware so they can change their appearance, then drive back to York, PA, in York County. At 6:20 a.m. on February 2nd, Mark approaches Penny on the pretense of needing directions. Mark brandishes his firearm, getting Penny into the passenger seat and driving away with her. Christina follows them in June's car. They come to a stop on Indian Rock Dam Road where Christina hears 3 shots. Then Penny's car speeds off into the windy dark streets at a high rate of speed. Christina attempts to follow, but her driving skills will not let her keep up. This is when the pair separate. Christina drives to Altoona and soon turns herself in and begins cooperating with the police. Penny's car is later found with Penny under the tires. Mark has some other business to attend to. Mark visits his ex-wife Michelle and gives her several of Penny's rings. Mark also offers Michelle credit cards he says have to be used the next day. Mark tells Michelle he killed these other ladies. He threw one off a bridge, but the other lady he ran over with her car and she got stuck under it. Mark made no attempt to hide his gun. Also, Mark did all this in front of their friend Charles. Then Mark drives 37 miles to the state capital Harrisburg in Dauphin County. Mark goes to his friend Juan's house and tries to sell him some of Penny's jewelry. Mark comments that he has a 9mm that is dropping them like flies. Mark also informs Juan he is wanted in Schuylkill County for murder. Then Mark continues his activities.
That's just fucked up. No other way to say it.
After leaving Juan's, Mark abducts 71-year-old Betty near her home. At 3:59 p.m., Betty cashes a $500 check at her bank. Mark is with her. At 5:26 p.m., Betty buys $262 worth of Orlando Magic swag in Cumberland County. Mark is present. At 6:04 p.m., Betty cashes an $1,140 check at the Camp Hill branch of her bank. Mark decides he wants to make a third CCTV appearance here, too. Staying in Cumberland County, Betty rents a room at the Knights Inn in nearby Carlisle. I've been in that motel. It's a fucking dive. Fuck you, Swift. But anyway, back to Mark, who was on camera here too. Around 6:30 p.m., Mark is observed standing near Betty's car on McClure's Gap Road. Just remember that. Mark gets together with Charles at the Knights Inn and they invite Michelle. Remember, she's Mark's ex-wife and Charles is their friend from earlier. Anyway, he invites Michelle over to smoke some crack.
Is it crack? Is that what you smoke? Do you smoke crack?
Mark gives Michelle $200 and Charles the car, and Charles drives to Michelle's sister's house. Alright, stop the show for a second. Dude's ex-wife is a pro and he just fucking bought one last lay. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Also, is Charles her pimp? First of all, why isn't your ass headed to Mexico? Shit, you should be 3/4 of the way there by now. Also, why didn't she do it for free? You know, a goodbye fuck. Bitch, you know you're his last lay fucking ever. And him, if you're going to pay for it anyway, send them both away and go pick up a new piece of strange. You know what I'm saying? Like, by now, he has to know he's about done being free. And this is what he fucking does? Fucking moron! But anyway, back to Moranathon and his killing spree now. The next morning, Michelle's sister and a friend are headed to pick up Mark and Michelle at Charles' request. The cops pull the pair over because there's a be on the lookout active on the car. See, a couple hours before this, some tree trimmers had found Betty's body. Around 6:30 p.m., Mark is observed standing near Betty's car on McClure's Gap Road. Just remember that. The pair were in Betty's car, so that's what's up here. The pair is immediately like, bro, dude's at Knights Inn. Can we get a ride home? And that is how Mark Spotz earned 3 death sentences in 3 counties in Pennsylvania in 1995. How do we fix this? All the victims in today's stories are gone too soon and taken too violently. To their families, friends, and loved ones, I am sorry for your loss. The reason I tell these stories is so I can tell you my idea for how to prevent them in the future. We need to make quarterly medical checkups compulsory for everyone from 0 to 36 months of age. We need to make staggered, semi-annual medical and psychological checkups compulsory for everyone from 3 to 18 years of age. Compulsory means that if an appointment is missed completely, the parental rights are removed from all legal guardians of the child immediately, permanently, and irrevocably. You can use religion as an excuse for child neglect when we let Mormons practice polygamy. After all, their scriptures out and out say they're supposed to in D&C 132. Look it up. It gets every child with an adult they can trust, whose job it is to ask questions and report abuse every 3 months. This will almost completely stop child abuse immediately. Child abuse is the most commonly cited predictor of serious mental illness later in life. Preventing the predictor might not fix the problem, but it makes it a lot less severe. Additionally, it will significantly increase early detection and treatment of mental illness. As the mentally ill are significantly overrepresented among violent criminals, this will significantly reduce violent crimes within 1 generation. Our society is broken and we need to start fixing it. This is my idea and this video is my commercial. Thank you for watching. Why not help spread the message and share it? Even if you share it on an Instagram account with 2 followers, if you use the share button, YouTube sees that and shows the thumbnail to more people. Thank you again for watching. Till next time, lock your doors. Unless you're sure your next door neighbor didn't need unreceived mental health attention as a child.